Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to this session around Supercharging Architects early stage feasibility designs in 15 minutes. We've got three really excellent presenters today to show you that process, and we will go through and get instructions done in a second. First of all, I want to just say this has been recorded and going out live on YouTube, LinkedIn and Instagram, and the recording will be available afterwards either through LinkedIn or through YouTube. I will send that link out afterwards in my newsletter. If you do have questions, then write them in the comments section, and then we will have a Q&A section at the end. The idea is to show very quickly what we're talking about today so everyone can see things in practice and how it works, and then we'll do Q&A and comments and discussion at the end, if that's okay. So yeah, use the comments, ask questions, and we'll collate those and ask them later on. I'm really pleased with this session today because feasibility, bidding stage and competition stage is really important. And we know that timeframes are constrained and we need to do a lot with a little time that we have. So the tools that we're showing today explore how we can look at early stage design and get from a analysis through to AI rendering at the end as quickly as possible. So as I say, we're going to do introductions first, then demonstrations, then discussion, Q&A later on. So I'm going to start, ask everyone to introduce themselves quickly. So if I can start with you, Sophia, to just say hi and tell everyone about yourself and your role and a bit about Hektar.
Yeah, definitely. Hi, my name is Sophia, and I am the CEO and the co-founder of Hektar. We're developing an early stage feasibility platform where you can do massing generation in the browser. I have a background as an architect, and I've also worked as a computational designer for a couple of years. And yeah, I'm very passionate about architecture, but also the technology development that we're seeing right now. So really curious to participate in this webinar.
Excellent. Okay. And Vinayak, do you want to go next?
Yep. So, hi everyone. I'm Vinayak, the co-founder of Urbanize. I'm a computational designer based out of Barcelona right now. And Urbanize is a site analysis tool that aims to streamline your whole site analysis process and give you enough data so you make conscious design decisions once you start your conceptual planning and moving forward with it. So, yeah.
Excellent. And Yannick, you're next.
Thank you. Yeah, hey guys, I'm Yannick. I'm the co-founder of Pelicad. We basically automate everything in the last step. Once you came up with the analysis, then the design, and then you need to present and communicate it. So we basically streamline this communication process. We're a young startup based in Germany. My background is from real estate development, and we've been developing this for 1.5 years, and super excited to be here. Thank you, Alistair.
Okay, amazing. And Leo, do you want to go next?
Yeah, thanks, Al. Hi, I'm Leo. I'm the IT manager at Architecture PLB. I've worked in AEC technology for over 20 years. My role spans across strategy, security, and implementation. So I'm really interested to see how these new emerging tools will align with identity management and our established workflows. Thank you.
Excellent, amazing. Okay, so I'm just going to get straight into it. So Vinayak, do you want to start, share your screen, and we'll start going through the process?
Perfect. So, yeah, just one second.
Okay, I've got it here.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
So hopefully my screen is visible to everyone.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah. So for this webinar, we have selected a site somewhere in Sweden, and you can see the context of the site. The site is pretty isolated, like the municipality, and the site is kind of densely packed around the neighborhood. So the idea is that you can just select the drawing tool, select the polygon of your choice, and just demarcate the site where your potential built-up space is going to be, and select the kind of project that you are tentatively going to propose over there. So for this case, it could be a low-density housing project, and for the sake of more accurate analysis, select the preferred unit metrics that you are kind of more inclined towards. So it could be imperial or metric, and the currency that you want the quantified metrics to be visible in. So in this case, it would be Swedish. And then essentially you run a proper deep analysis. So once you click on it, then you can switch to the maps. Now, the idea of this whole application is to give you a lot of, to give you verified data metric points, to give you 8 to 10 different maps in 2D and 3D, so you can analyze your urban context in a more cohesive way. And by the time the maps are loading, and by the time the quantitative metric is gonna, get booted up in the background, ideally, this whole process is a 2 to 3 minute step, but to streamline the process, we have already loaded up the application. Now, once the analysis is done, you get these verified quantified metrics. Now, all of these data points, they do come with their own data sources. So you can just go and tap on any data source to kind of cross-check and revalidate the data points. Now, as architects, urban planners, or designers, we kind of need quantified metrics to make more cohesive and conscious design decisions. So in this case, it lets you know what the average household income in the neighborhood is, the age demography, the construction style, surrounding building types, what the accessibility and environmental factors around your site is, what the urban context and regulation in the neighborhood and in the whole municipality as a whole would be. Then what the socioeconomic fabric is, employment sector, and all these different quantified metrics. Then towards the end, you get proximity analysis done for your site and relevant case studies, which can become a baseline for your work. And again, all the verified data sources. So you get all these numbers, you get all these different maps. The maps, because there are, I think, close to 15 different layers coming together. So at times it takes a bit of time. But yeah, you get building type maps with proper legends, various building height maps, when was the building kind of made, building footprint, and you get all these different maps, both in 2D and 3D. So you can interpret your site in a more visual way and kind of make interpret the data how your office would be using it. Then you get this another map, which is the land use map. It's essentially an overlay of all the resources that it gathers and all the build space on the site. So there's an agricultural land around it, industrial pocket, residential pocket around the site. Then you also get this population density map, which for this, we are not using any census data. We are actually using Google Business and Google APIs to kind of do a live calculation analysis. So so it kind of takes data from the last 6 months and aggregates it in an average way. So through this, you kind of get to know what the population density pattern is during the daytime and then during the nighttime. Then, of course, because I think over here, there's a industrial and agriculture unit, so the nighttime density isn't high, but on the other side of the road, we have residential pockets. So during nighttime, there's more people over there. Then you can, of course, get straight hierarchy maps and accessibility map, which kind of helps you understand how accessible your site is, what are the closest intersection around your site. So based on this, you can make decisions about entry and exit points of your site. And of course, then in the end, you can overlay all these different maps together to kind of, again, understand your site in different layers and in a more tactile way. Now, yeah, essentially understanding the site in terms of visual maps, understanding the site in terms of numbers, getting all the verified data sources out of it, and having a brief overview about your site. Because a lot of times as architects, when we get projects in new locations, it's it's kind of tough to aggregate all these different data points and, have numbers and text around it in a quantified and verified way. So it also kind of gives you a brief overview about your site. What are the key insights about your site? What's the potential around your site in terms of development pockets around it? What are the ecological factors around your site presently? And based on the project type that you select, it also tries to decode the cost estimation around your site. And this tends to be kind of helpful around the initial stage of the project. And once you are done with understanding your site in terms of visuals, numbers, and metrics, then you can also quickly run an environmental report analysis on the application itself, and you get a very cohesive environmental report. So this data is pretty useful for the studios who consider these factors while designing and who make their design decisions around it. And once you're done with all this, you kind of end up getting a dashboard. Always make sure to just save your project for the next time when you need it. And yeah, once you're done analyzing your site, then you move to the next step and handing over it to Sophia.
Amazing. Okay, that's really, that's really incredible. How long is it taking you to put that together?
Like how long did it take to put the application together or the data?
Yes.
Oh, I think 6 to 7 months.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, all that data is incredibly valuable for clients and for projects, isn't it? To have at an early stage. We just, as architects, I don't think we have access to that too often. So amazing. Thank you very much for that. Okay, Sophia, do you want to kick off next?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I hope that the audio will work okay here. Let me know otherwise.
All good.
So yeah, let's see. Share screen and entire screen. Perfect. Right. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. All right. So now when you've done your analysis, the whole idea is that you can continue to run analysis in Hektar, which is a massing and feasibility platform. All the data is currently based on OpenStreetMap, so you can do this everywhere in the world. But I'm going to continue with the same site as in the previous example. It's actually a demo we did together with Eslöv municipality in Sweden. So I'll go for a demo, and we go to Rework in Eslöv. So as mentioned, everything is based on OpenStreetMap, and we bring in data sources from there. So everything from footprints of buildings to topography models. And for the topography models, we actually use, not OpenStreetMap, we use a third party called Nimbo, which they have more accurate topography data. And for certain locations, we also stream data from municipalities or from national sources. So in Sweden, we source we stream the DEM model from the municipality, from Lantmäteriet. So if we continue with the site, if you have it as a GeoJSON file, you can upload your polygon, you can upload other references. But in this case, we can turn on the data layers. We go to Sweden, and we turn on the property regions. So this is also a data source from Lantmäteriet in Sweden, where we have all of the property regions available in Hektar. And it's the same for, I think it's around 80% of Europe, where we cover the cadastral maps as a starting point. So in this example, I'm just going to trace the outer boundary of the plot. And so I'll do it quite rough. Let's see. And as mentioned, if you have more accurate information, of course, you can upload that information as well. When I click Save Project, everything configures in the background. So we configure the footprints and the 3D models from the existing buildings in the context environment. And here is the core principles of Hektar, the user interface. So the first thing I'm going to do is to prepare the surroundings. So as you saw, you have a lot of footprints, but you can, in some certain cases, you don't have the accurate data for the heights, but you can quite easily go in on the property, on the existing buildings and tag them with other height levels. So you can, for example, adjust this building up to 10 meters, for example. And the next thing that you can do is we're going to prepare a little bit. So we will turn on, in Sweden, we will turn on the property data layer again. And you also have soil types from Sveriges Geologiska Institute and other data layers as well. But in this case, I'll turn on the terrain shading to get more information about and a visual view of what the context actually look like. And now to the fun part. So when I click on this site, I have what we call the generation panel to the left. And we have a set of predefined typologies. So the core of Hektar and what we're working on is to define architectural logic across different scales. So we write algorithms that represent subdivision of site. We write algorithms that provide information about volumetric typologies and the arrangement of different volumes in relation to each other. And also, I'm going to talk about the future, like the additional scales on a more interior perspective. But to start with, you start with selecting what kind of building typologies you want. So first of all, I'll subdivide the site. And as you see down here, we also have a bunch of tools, so you can draw your own road, for example. Let's see, I just need to move this, I guess. So you can then decide and say, okay, I want to split the site like this, and you can, we call it parcels. So you go from a larger area to more controlled zones. And if I then click on a given parcel, like this, you will see that the generation panel appears to the left. And this means that you will be able to specify requirements per parcel. So in this case, I can first of all select typologies, but I can then specify different numbers. So the ratio, for example, the density of this parcel. So I'm going to go for 2, and you will see the estimated amount of square meters up here. And you can say that you want it to be around 6 meters, 6 floors on average. And you can specify different targets, and kind of you set up your input parameters, and it's kind of a multi-objective optimization and the selection algorithm that optimizes based on these constraints. I'm not going to go through all of the inputs, but you specify your constraints and your typologies like this. And then you press generate, and what actually happens is that these requirements goes into our engine, and we generate volumes on this site. So now you've generated, based on your constraints, you've generated a model on this part of the plot, and I'll do the same for the next parcel. And you also have the possibility, let's see, you also have the possibility to draw your own buildings. So let's say you like this shape, but you would like to combine that with let's say, a point house. You can place your point house like this, and you can kind of, in a very fast way, sketch up and generate and combine like generation algorithms with manual drawing and continue down the road. I'm not going to do all of the parcels, but the principle is the same. So if we go here, I've already prepared for all of the parcels. So this is kind of what a model could look like when you generate it for the whole plot. So you have these different tools down here where you can specify where you would like to have parking and parks, for example. So in this example, I've specified I have a park here and ground parking at certain places. And of course, you can, if you click on the generated buildings, you can also go in and manipulate and change this and say, okay, I want to modify this a little bit. So updating the geometry like this, or I can go in and click on certain parts in this model. So on a block level, you can go in and specify the span and say, okay, I want to change the core typology to a 2-span apartments, or I want to change, let's say this one. You can then specify and say, okay, I am more interested in this core instead of the other one. And you can, of course, flip it and higher and lower the amount of floors per block. So when you click on, you can see like this is the scales that we're working on with Hektar. So we have what we call a parcel, which is like the composition of buildings. And then we have the building scale and the block. We have the floor and the units, and everything is represented in a data model where you can both do generation and manipulation at the same time. And to the right, you have what we call the statistic panel. So depending on what you select in the model, you get the KPIs for the selected part of the model. And these numbers to the right, that's the total KPI for the whole project. So in this example, you have 66,000 square meters gross floor area, and this selected block is 1,700. So yeah, again, I'm not going to go through all of the different KPIs, but in general, it's all the square meters, the traditional KPIs. We have unit distribution and parking and different ratios and efficiency metrics for the design. You have how the data model is structured, like a tree for how the data model is generated. And again, as shown before, you have the data layers that you can turn on and off to better understand the site and the surroundings. So in Sweden, we stream the data from Lantmäteriet, and in Denmark, for example, we look at Dataförsyningen and similar sources in other countries. And since everything is georeferenced from the beginning, you can very easily just change the sun settings and play around with different scenarios at different times. Once you're happy with the composition, you can save it as what we call a scenario. So now I've manipulated and saved this as scenario 2, but I can also click on another scenario I've generated and look at, okay, what does another model and another composition look like? And this is another option. And I can very easily compare these with each other with different metrics back and forth. So it's a way of very fast sketching with a linked data model in the background, where you can do this in the browser. And once you're happy with composition and the proposal in Hektar, you can, of course, export your scenario. You can export this as 3DM, OBJ file, or you can also export the data as CSV or Excel format. And of course, if you want to bring out the context, both the topography from Lantmäteriet or from Nimbo, you can include the context and you will get the whole model to continue working with in Rhino or in other 3D softwares. So as the next step here, for me at least, I normally go to Nano Banana and do renderings for some clients. But in this case, I think it's very interesting to continue with the presentation from Yannick, where he will present rendering with control. So I leave the model like this, and I hope you enjoyed the demo, and I'll hand over to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. That's absolutely great. So we've got a question for you, but we'll do that at the end. Mike, if that's okay, I'll definitely ask that question. But Yannick, if you want to share your screen, we'll jump into your section.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Well, basically, now you saw the first step, analysis. Second step, we came up with specific designs, and Pelicad basically now allows you to work on these designs and create presentation-ready visuals. And usually back in the days, you needed to either do that manually or you used, as Sophia just said to you, Nano Banana Pro. And what Pelicad basically allows you is to guide AI outputs through 3D inputs. So in general, we came up with a platform that allows you to control those outputs in much more detail, which is also our USP compared to all these other AI tools that are currently on the market. And based on experience, we usually know that if you have a very specific design, this is quite hard to control, and you usually need to prompt a lot. And this is why you can basically get these results much faster and with much more control with Pelicad in 3D. Now, before I start with this project, I just want to mention, for demo purposes, we came up with a different model. This is not from ours, but from another company that does similar things. I just want to mention them. They're BuildPlace. They're in Germany and have a lot of data in Germany, which is very detailed. All right. And basically, you can import any kind of 3D model that you have. It doesn't need to be like a feasibility study, but it can also be a very detailed IFC model. You can import the data into the platform via the following formats, so IFC, 3ds, 3DM, whatever you have, and then start working on it. And as you can see, the viewport is quite simple. So you basically have a 3D control over the model, and this on a very detailed model as well. You can either just select it, move it, rotate it, however you like to. But sometimes you also don't just want to rush towards the AI part, but you have more detailed requirements. For instance, you want to predefine certain usage cases, like in this case here, we have like a hotel that is in the red area, like a commercial building complex in the back that is indicated blue, and now, for instance, down here, like a commercial line on the ground floor. And what you can also do is then, before moving to any kind of rendering, that you predefine certain parts, so you can change materials. So also, if you have more complex models, you can have much more control instead of doing that in the end with the AI, like doing random prompting, which usually don't yield specific results. Now, in the second step, this is also like an enormous automation for most of the people. You don't need to model the environment of your buildings, but you can basically integrate it into the Google 3D Maps model. And of course, now, for instance, in this case, we have this model based in Berlin that came from BuildPlace. And we have some existing buildings here as well that we need to replace. And after positioning the model, in ideal cases, you even have georeferences, so it's basically already placed in its exact location. You can also cut out certain elements of the environment. So just to quickly demonstrate this, it's quite easy to do. Like if I want to cut out these kind of trees here, I can just simply connect these 4 points, cut them out. And this is how I basically configure the environment in literally a couple of seconds, and set it up in a way that generates a visual I need to present to either an investor or, of course, city administrations. Now, in the second part, you basically have your 3D model ready, you place it in the environment, and then you can come up with certain views. Now, these views are basically imitated from other softwares like Archicad, so you usually come up with different designs. You need to preset certain views and switch quickly between them. So you can come up with different views throughout your project, set them, and basically upload new models as well once you start iterating on them. And as you can see on the left side is that you can also pre-configure all details. You have all coordinates if you need them, but also the field of view. So you basically have much more control over what you actually create. And then basically that was the second step. You jump into the third step, which is about generating the visuals you need. And in the first step, and this is quite important because quite a lot of people actually, known or unknowingly, infringe copyright a little bit, is that you are not able just to use Google 3D Maps as you see it here. Like if you do a photo collage, this is usually an infringement of Google, but we work around this by doing small deviations from this view in a sketch style. So Pelicad usually turns the first view into this kind of sketch that you can see right here. And afterwards, you can also, if you need it, you can stay in this kind of sketch into realistic views as well. And the small deviation leads to not infringing any kind of copyright, but your own design, basically, because you are in charge of how much you change. In this case, also the first very important element now comes in. Usually AI changed quite a lot. Now we got Nano Banana Pro, which is already quite good at keeping the details. But nonetheless, usually projects are so big and so complex that AI is either quite hard to control in every detail, and it starts changing elements. And this is the first one here that you see. You basically would just increase the level of detail for the environment, or like the sketch style, and the data isn't been changed. And then you basically start iterating on it. In this project, we wanted to do like an isometric view as well, which is a little bit simplistic, so don't show any real elements, but we want to have the environment in there without like manually modeling them. And to illustrate basically the control you have is that you don't start sketching in this kind of tool. You could, I come to that later as well, but you control the outputs through the 3D input. So I can basically now click on these levels down here and select all these parts I now want to change, and tell the AI I only want to change these elements without like complex prompting or, like I said, sketching, but just select it and then come up with the results that the AI gives me. Now, of course, sometimes I don't want to have these very simplistic looks, but I can also use Pelicad to come up very quickly with very specific designs that align to the original design intent. And this is what I want to show you in the second edit. We can also jump to the next camera position. And again, we start in a sketch style and then turn this in a realistic scenario, for instance, by again selecting certain parts of the image. Now, for instance, this one here or this one, and then apply material references throughout prompts or images, whatever you have. And the AI basically only focuses on these parts, and you are much more in control. And of course, sometimes, I mean, it depends on what kind of expectation management you wanna have. You can turn this into a realistic style and, well, impress people. And I think like the more or the faster this process gets, maybe you can even show more variations. But based on expectations, it's a little bit meaningful to stay in the sketch mode that you just saw earlier. And now a very important step is, because we're based in 3D, is that you can also change perspectives to footwalking perspectives, because usually you don't just apply these aerial views, but you need to apply the same look to footwalking perspectives. And this also works very well. Like, we're still iterating on this, that you basically can exactly just switch the camera and apply a view from 1 to 2 currently. But as you can see, like the results we have here, like staying close to design intent and not deviating from one view to the other. So you need to redo the whole process. And as you can also see, when I change into the 3D viewport, I just cut out certain elements down here that were bothering me a little bit during the setup of the view. And thus I'm able to basically turn this rough concept study in a very specific design in mere seconds, basically, which doesn't change any of the geometry. And then just to show you another example, I mean, you know AI by now, how it's working. If I want to change this now to a different design, I just basically click on the 3D model and select certain parts and start iterating on it. And thus you have much more control over the networks. And what we will do in the future now is, currently we have combined a set of different AI models. Some models take care of the environment, some models take care of the iteration on the models itself. And in the future, we start on do this iteration much faster, that you can also access other AI models if you want to, and make them available in 3D. And also, as I said in the beginning, not just for feasibility models, but along the design process, the more detailed the model becomes, the more you can edit, control, whatever, and also integrate videos, for instance. Thank you for this. Thank you again for Leo and Alistair, and get back to you.
Amazing. Thank you very much. That's great. Okay, so we're going to do some Q&A in just a moment. I just need to remember to say about our sponsor basically today. So AEC Tech Jobs is a sponsor for these sessions. I'm just going to share my screen super quickly just to show you what we do. So as part of AEC Tech Jobs, we support construction technology companies recruit people into roles in the industry, and you can see on the left we've got loads of different roles, from product managers, sales, customer success, computational designers, etc. So we've got loads of roles on there, and the idea is to help contact companies find this software that they want to work, find the people that they want to work with, and for people who may be working in AEC who want to work in software, they can go here and find those roles. And next week, or the week after, most likely next week, we're going to be launching a partner portal for those software companies that are looking for people and want to manage across multiple roles. We're building a dedicated platform for that. So watch this space. It's coming out soon. Okay. So I just want to go back to the questions. So we've got a few in the chat already. So Mike has asked, for Hektar, what if you need 6, 8, or 10 apartments off of a core? Is that possible? Is that something you can do?
Yeah, so the way it works is that we're developing this typology library for cores. So at the moment, I think we have around 200 different cores, and we're constantly expanding this. So we will include like double corridors and a lot of different types. So if you have any recommendations, feel free to send them in to us, and we're constantly expanding. So we might have some, but if you have specific types in mind, you are always welcome to contact us.
Okay, perfect. And also, can it respond to UK building regulations, it's planning regulations regarding travel distances and second stairs? Actually, that is building regulations. So more kind of granular detail.
Yeah, but that's super interesting. The way it works is that we look into country-specific cores. So we started, of course, in Sweden because we operate here mostly. And then we like kind of encode requirements directly in the cores. So in Sweden, for example, we've measured like the distances from a unit to the staircase, for example. And we're planning to, again, constantly expand that library, and we're planning to speed it up with AI development as well. Regarding, it doesn't take into account all planning regulations, but it takes into consideration like fire distances and geometrical constraints.
Great. Okay. And then Yannick, for you, Mike also asked about, can you cut out existing buildings? I know you showed a bit where you cut out an area, I think, of the street that you were talking about. Is that possible as well? For the
definitely. Of course. Like we have different projects already that we're either like building buildings on top of existing buildings, so you can just place them on there, or you just cut out buildings exactly as you just saw the cutout of the tree. It's quite simple, and you can cut out as many trees and buildings as you want to.
Okay, amazing. Okay, Leo, I'm going to pass over to you. I think you've got some questions.
There was actually another question in the chat.
Oh, okay, I'll find that.
But yeah, whilst you're finding that, I guess let me ask an IT question. So this is to all of you. So I guess from an IT and ops perspective, so obviously all your platforms, they're all web based, which is great. That's kind of what we're seeing as delivery at the moment, which is brilliant. But the two things that really sort of help drive adoption in practice is around identity management and data workflows, which is kind of what this is all about. So most companies, they have a centralized identity platform, like it might be Microsoft or Google or some open standard. But importantly, they already have established kind of tool chains or workflows they already use. So I guess the question is around how do your platforms support this kind of secure identity integration model, and also how your tools will integrate with existing workflows, like whatever that might be, Revit, Rhino, and it's kind of around that sort of piece, those two aspects, and then so around data portability and like long-term like access to data, the life cycle of the data. So I guess it's those sort of questions to all of you, really.
I think maybe I can start with the answer because we are using a lot of open source data points. So in our case, because we wanted to keep Urbanize as a global application, so we kind of went on to design an algorithm that extracts all these data points which are openly available, rather than focusing on municipality specific data points, because that kind of isolates the application and the use case. And in terms of giving credit to who owns the data, we are trying to be as transparent as possible with that, because we are trying to position ourselves as a location intelligence and data aggregation tool, rather than trying to formulate our own data points.
Okay.
So that's where we stand. And in terms of it kind of going with your workflow, of course, the maps you can just take as GeoJSON, SVJ, and PNG. We also have concept planner and the data points that can go in Excel format or Word format or reports. So it kind of increases the ease of communication within the office or academic infrastructure. Yeah.
Great, thank you. I think I heard integration with Rhino, I think you said, with Hektar, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So I can continue on the workflow part. So as we see it, like people normally start working in Hektar and then they export it. So of course you can export to files and solve part of the interoperability aspect when downloading a file and continuing in another platform. What we're also looking into is to increase the interoperability with plugins, so you can kind of push and pull data back and forth without breaking the data links, and download the file and break the chain to all of the metrics. We're not completely there yet, but that's definitely something we're looking into. So on the horizon, we more or less see Hektar as a platform where you can start, but you can push data to other platforms as well, such as Rhino, Revit, or ArchiCAD. Continue do manipulation in other platforms, but kind of push back to our schema and get the KPI metrics updated live and instantly. We're working on it. We're not there yet, but we're going there.
Sounds great. And Yannick, how are we dealing with yours, mate?
Well, to ask your first question about the identity management, currently we have integrated SSO so far, so there's a certain security level. We've also been developing the platform with large European companies, construction companies like Strabag and Sybelin, to kind of like adhere to those kind of levels and have multiple teams. Although I need to also mention that currently we don't have any differentiation between, like, aside from admin and like a normal user, to differentiate between different teams, purely because we just focus on other elements right now that were a little bit more important, because we are currently developing it very, very closely with customers. So this is definitely something we need to step up in the future as well, but it's just going to be quite simple compared to the other parts, if I might say so. And when it comes to workflow integration, we basically integrated Speckle at our core, because we believe in exactly, like, we're just like a teeny tiny part of the overall design workflow, and it doesn't make sense to have like super complex onboarding sessions. So like having Speckle at our core, we know that it's conform for like ISO and also SOC. I think they're currently like in the process of ISO 27001, but SOC2 is already applied. So we're also like in this process, and basically just can import any kind of data and also upload from any kind of data source you have, because it doesn't make any sense to have a lot of barriers on there.
Perfect.
Answers.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, we've got loads of questions while that was going on. Okay, so I'm going to put them up on the screen, actually, because we can do that. So is Urbanize available for locations worldwide or only in certain countries?
Oh, definitely. It's available worldwide. Like the present site that we did was, although in Sweden, but a bit isolated. We have had extreme test cases for remote places back in India, and remote locations in South Korea, because South Korea is very protective with its data set, with its urban data set, but we achieved pretty accurate results over there too. So yeah, it's worldwide.
Amazing. And the question from me is, all of the data sources, have you essentially collated those and it just links to those as and when it needs to? Am I oversimplifying it?
Yeah, a bit oversimplification, but towards the right direction, to be honest.
Yeah.
So the way the algorithm works is that it first tries to match the data set with the government data that we have. So links like .gov or the domain-specific link of countries. And then it goes through the publicly available data sources, which are like your real estate data, your travel data, and other metrics. And then it kind of aggregates and simulates the whole data point.
Wow.
Yeah. So we do have our own data bank. We have like spent a lot of time doing that part of data scraping. And based on the location that you search, it kind of matches it for you.
Wow. Okay, that's super impressive. Okay, all right. Next one. Can we input a standard dwelling unit type that the model can apply? This is for Hektar, I think, was you, Sophia.
Yeah, kind of, but not really. So the way it works is like you can specify the distribution that you want, and very soon you can also specify the dimensions, but it's not like, I'm not sure if I completely understand, but you cannot really upload a library, but you can specify parameters for that unit type, if that makes sense. So kind of, yes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, with software like that, you have the ability, like say, to put in the constraints that you want to.
Yeah, exactly. But if you have like a unit that has a very specific type, like a shape, for example, you cannot really upload that shape and tell the algorithm to use that, but you can specify certain parameters and targets and distributions and use the parametric representation of a standardized unit, but you cannot really use the standardized units as a starting point.
Yeah, okay, amazing. Okay. The next question is quite long, but I'll stick to the beginning bit. So just to double check, you used AI to create that detailed worked up building from your simple massing model. So if you removed a storage from the massing, for example, would it respect the detailed design that's been generated?
I need to say not yet. It's definitely something a lot of architects have been asking us. And I think the potential is, because you're working in 3D, you can definitely reapply it directly, and we can feed the AI much more information than just working in 2D. And I think that's the potential here as well. Currently, all the AI tools, and there are so many of them, work in 2D, and they are limited exactly for these kind of use cases. And you need to have these kind of use cases, because then the real magic happens. So currently we're still like configuring some of the parts. I think one of the questions was also like, what happens if we have less detailed data in the questions? And this is currently what we're focusing on. However, because it's connected to Speckle or whatever kind of planning software you have, it's quite easy to just upload a new model and basically apply the style you have to the new model as well. So you have a short workaround for now, but soon more is to come.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Okay, we've got one more here for you, Sophia. How does Hektar, for example, help in competitions? Would it be possible to import specifications, terms of reference, I'm not sure what that is, and generate comparative stats against the request? Does that make sense to you?
I think so. So actually, we looked into a competition a couple of days ago, and correct me now if I misunderstand the question, but what we did in that specific case was that we got the specification, like we got the detailed plan, but we also got what we in Sweden call planprogram, planbeskrivning, where we got like a PDF of 20 pages. And we then did a quick test where we created a GPT where we extracted the parameters that would affect the geometry from that and translated that geometry input, the parameters. So we did like a translation from the competition brief with LLMs to Hektar specific requirements, and we generated based on that. So that's nothing that we don't have the full integration to it yet, but we are elaborating on it. So you can achieve that if you do a workaround with uploading it in our GPT and translate the input parameters to Hektar.
Wow. Okay.
I hope I understood the question.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We've got another long question here. Our main issue is that Google Earth imagery outside of Europe is not very detailed. We sometimes have site photos, but we can't achieve a result like the one you showed in your demo. It would be amazing if you could train the AI using site and satellite photos to generate images similar to the one on Google Earth provided in Europe. Maybe you would consider adding such a feature to your roadmap. What do you think about that?
Well, yes, this is one of the limitations I just mentioned, and we're currently working on. So what we're currently also focusing on is integrating other data, so that you basically, I mean, as if you would use a Hektar, for instance, you already have your surrounding data, and if you already have imagery, you could basically map this. And I think there are so many different use cases, which makes it very hard in architecture to come up with the right visual, even though you have AI right now. And we basically just offer this kind of control. Like, for instance, you then just integrate LOD2 data and then match it with the imagery you already have. And then you basically have your own design. You have the LOD2 data, for instance, from Hektar, whatever, and you match it with satellite data. And then you are able to guide specific outputs in the 3D scene as well. So as I mentioned before, certain workarounds apply. But I think the more data you have, the better it gets.
Okay, very good. Hektar, are you thinking in parcel generation based on natural language prompting?
Yes, that's the direction we are going. So right now you're adjusting the sliders, but we're planning to do this like an agent-based tool for early stage development. So we are planning on implementing natural language, so you could do the prompting. That's on the horizon, but we are working towards that with a standardized data protocol and relations from geometry, both in volumetric scales, but all the way down to the unit scale. So it's on our roadmap.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and I've got one last question here. Does Pelicad automatically draw buildings that match their context, and can this be changed so it contrasts? If a more complex model is imported, does it affect it?
I'm not quite sure to perfectly understand it. Like, if you mean like drawing, no, definitely not. We basically make sure to integrate 3D models that you already have as seamless as possible into their context, and then you can change them quite seamlessly, also without doing the manual work of, like, for instance, you already have a visual and you want to just change a model and want to keep everything steady. This is what we've been working on. But no, definitely not. We're no design tool, and we think it also makes a lot of sense to stay in this focus, because visual, even with AI, is still quite tricky sometimes. And if a more model or more complex model is imported, does this affect it? I can just say you can upload very complex model and guide them in a lot of detail. I hope this answers the question. If not, please contact me again and we can talk about this in more detail.
Okay, we've got more questions. I'm going to keep going if that's okay for everyone.
Sure.
Okay. Can we use this software to create a detailed model that shows exactly how the building will look once it's constructed in the real location? Essentially, can we see a realistic preview of the final structure in its actual site? I don't know if that's specifically for Hektar or for Pelicad, but maybe both of you could respond to that.
Ladies first.
And it's a really question again. Can we use the software to create a detailed model that shows exactly how the building will look once? Okay, so if this question is for me, the answer is not at the moment. So the lowest scale that we support is the unit representation, but we don't do floor plans, which also means that we don't do positioning of windows and balconies and so on. Of course, you can go into a rendering tool with the massing model that we generate, but we don't generate the details on the model. So it should be seen as a very early stage tool for feasibility and with areas and surfaces and space optimization.
Yeah, and maybe from my side, just to add, no, in the short answer. However, like there are quite a lot of architects that have been asking like whether you're actually able to come up with certain massing models, then apply certain styles on it, and you design more by look, which is quite difficult, I think, in certain scenarios if you already have certain floor plans or something like this. But there is a certain vision that you could derive from a visual 3D details, but this is, as I said, something visionary more than actual workflow right now.
Okay, this isn't a question, but I thought it was quite nice. Looking forward to trying out some of these tools, which is good, isn't it? So that's great. So that's what the whole point of these sessions is, to kind of say to people, look, they're out there, please use them. I will share the links again in just a moment. There's one last question, and then we'll finish off, which is here. Are your tools collaborative, possible for multiple users to work simultaneously on the same project? It's a good question.
Do you want to start this time?
Yes, you are. I think that's the main reason also why we're cloud-based, apart from other reasons. But yes, you can. And this makes the whole process even more fun, I believe, that you can work simultaneously in one file and move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the answer from our side is yes as well. You cannot really work and edit on the same scenario at the same time, but you can definitely work in the same project area and create different scenarios, and you can be on the compare view and work in the model together and do manipulations on the model. So yes, definitely.
Perfect. And that's massive that we have tools that you can work collaboratively in, because we just can't in so many other tools, you know, like InDesign and even in kind of Word documents. There's plenty of architects that we speak to are just working on standard documents on their own because they haven't worked out how SharePoint works and things. So I think it's massive, and that's what we want software to move towards, is collaborative working. I think it's incredibly important. I'm going to just very quickly share all of your websites' web addresses so everyone can see that. We will be running more of these sessions over the year. We've got another one lined up for a couple of weeks' time, which I'm going to set up on Friday, which will be about auto drawings from Revit. So that's the next talk that we'll be doing. I want to thank all of the speakers for their time today. Really, really delighted that we can go through all these products and see how they work. And like I say, the aim of this is to show workflows, how tools work together, and improve practice for architects, because there's a lot of opportunities out there for us now, which is really exciting. So thank you very much to you, Sophia, Yannick, and Vinayak. I'll just put the last web address up there. Thank you, Leah, as well, as always, for joining us. If anyone has any questions, then please get in touch with me. If you want to reach out to any of the presenters, you'll find them in the link in LinkedIn, and you'll find their profiles on there. They'd be very happy to help with any questions that you have. But I will leave it there, and thank everyone again, and we'll see you again soon.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Alistair.